Hello, and welcome to another episode of Houston. We have a podcast. So to start off, I just want to say when we originally created this podcast, I kind of had one thing in mind, and that was I didn't just want to talk about recent movies that have come out because that's like what everyone else is doing. So 1 year into the podcast, Paulo, what are we talking about tonight?
We're talking about not what.
We're talking about recent movies that have come out. So I am 100% ready to sell out at this point. So that's fine. I'm selling out so we can get 150 views instead of 100.
I was gonna try and spin it, but sure.
So today we're going to be talking about 3 new movies that have come out. Avengers Infinity War, Deadpool 2, and Solo. And our guests that we have with here today are Tyler and Rebecca. Thanks for joining us here today, guys.
Woo.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
And as you are new guests to the show, as we always do, we want to ask you to kind of introduce yourselves to our audience. So we have you pick one movie and one character that kind of represents you as a person. So Tyler, how about you go first?
Oh man, I'm ill suited for this challenge.
No pressure.
Actually, I'm passing the baton over to this one.
Okay, I'll go
I'm
first.
gonna give a little bit of thought to this.
Yeah, you're gonna prep some more?
As I do.
Yeah.
Don't worry, man. No one's listening.
But it's Deadpool 2.
This is unfortunately true.
So the movie that I picked to describe me is Lady Bird. Has anyone seen Lady Bird
yes.
here? Yeah. So as someone raised in a very Catholic environment and being from a smaller area that I could not wait to get out of, I strongly identify with Saoirse Ronan's character in Lady Bird, and I just love how she's so really wants to get out, but then she gets out and she kind of realizes what she had there, and I've sort of had a similar experience. Not like I want to go back, but Lady Bird just made me feel a lot of very intense feelings. And then the character that I identify with is Evie from The Mummy.
Oh my God. You win.
That's a big movie for us.
Yeah. So I studied archaeology in my undergrad. So that movie was like my favorite. And then she's a librarian, and I'm into museums, so it's not the same, but it's definitely along the same lines. So
I'm in the clear to make Jesus jokes on this episode, right?
I most strongly identify as being an ex-Catholic at this point. Yeah.
Okay, I'm
So.
probably going to bring that up during the Deadpool 2 segment. But
Please do.
Only my mom will get offended. So, yeah.
And mine, Mom, don't listen. She doesn't know what
Tyler, are you
podcasts
finished thinking yet?
Do I ever? I was trying to think what. I don't want to go too sappy with this. I could say Zach Braff on Garden State. And I'm like, no, let's go a little more subdued. And I did want to go for a Wes Anderson movie, but I'm going for a Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah, you are.
I kind of right now I'm kind of digging Owen Wilson in Darjeeling Limited.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
trying to bring the family together, I'm just about to go on a trip, so, feeling like losing my mind and
Yeah, sorry, with
and
how many of your relatives are going?
with 9 of my relatives, so I'm feeling that right now.
Yeah. Are you ready to order for everyone?
Yeah. He'll get the soup, no peanuts.
Make sure to apologize before you take your teeth out.
Yeah, and do the little bow. And then we'll all pull out our illicit pharmaceuticals and just have a great time.
I need to watch that movie.
Oh, you do.
I knew you were going to get these right.
Yeah. Just sitting here, smiling.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
I mean, Canada's going to be the place for illicit pharmaceuticals, so why travel anywhere else?
Yeah.
So is that both your movie and your character?
I'd say yeah.
Okay, that's fine. And then, in addition to being new guests, you are actually also our first female guest, but also our first married couple who are guests.
2 firsts.
So you guys have prepared a movie and character that represent you as a couple. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're big fans of little kind of indie rom-coms.
Yeah.
And we could talk about those for hours.
We got
But-
you guys on the wrong episode.
Yeah.
Do we want to do the on 3? Let's yell the one that we think, and then it'll be the different ones, and it'll be funny.
Like the Newlyweds Game.
You guys should definitely do it.
1,
Do you want to do it?
3,
Well-
go.
Okay.
All right, on 3.
Okay.
Forget you, Carson.
Yeah.
Okay.
1,
Go for it.
2, 3. The
Away
Thin
we
Man.
go.
The Thing?
Okay.
Okay. The Thin Man, which is a movie from 1930.
I feel it was like right after Prohibition dropped and everyone was drinking on film because it was okay again, and they were just ribbing each other the entire time.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. It was great.
Yeah, it's this really cute comedy where it's this married couple and the husband is a detective or like a retired detective, and the wife has a lot of money, and there's the murder that happens, and so she's trying to get him to investigate it, and they just harass each other the whole movie, which is very true to our relationship.
That is a much better choice than The Thing.
Yeah.
Which is what I thought you guys originally said.
You guys were talking about this before, and I thought
the
you were talking
dog.
about the Slender Man. This is a very different movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very different relationship.
I'm tall and creepy and stand in the shadows.
Yeah.
Yeah, starring Myrna Loy
Yeah,
and I forget who the
someone
male
Powell,
lead.
I think.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Based on a Dashiell Hammett novel.
Yeah, and then it ended up being like pretty successful, so I think they made a whole bunch of sequels to it.
Yeah, if you like a drunken comedic Maltese Falcon, this is the one for you.
Yeah, it's really good.
What's the one that you said?
I said Away We Go, which is a really cute comedy starring John Krasinski and
Jim.
I actually know this one.
Maya. Is that
Maya
her name?
Rudolph?
Yes. And it's about this couple that are kind of trying to find a place to like settle, and so they go visit like friends and family in different parts of like Canada and the States. And it's just, I mean, like anything that John Krasinski is involved with, it's just so fucking cute.
Is A
A
Quiet
Quiet-
Place also very cute?
I mean,
I
I haven't seen that one yet. It's not
Oh.
part of my John Krasinski canon. So.
Making the hearing aids was pretty cute.
I would describe it as very bad, but
Oh, you're such
They've
very,
got
very on brand for you, Carson.
a little preview of what the next 3 discussions are going to be like.
I'm gonna get slowly more cynical as this episode goes on.
Did you order them on purpose?
No, it's
So-
actually the order they came out, but it's just
Oh.
working out in a way that
Ah.
I like the one at the beginning and not the one at the end. Okay, so we're gonna get started with our kind of review of movies. So we're going very spoiler heavy for this, but if you haven't seen one of these movies, I'm gonna put the time codes in the description, so you can just easily skip ahead to one of the movies that you have seen, because again, we're definitely going full spoilers here.
This is the first time we've said spoiler alert before actually giving the spoilers, I think.
Yeah. We're really learning.
It's a
what
new
we're doing.
day, yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna jump right into it. Our first movie that we're talking about here is Avengers: Infinity War. Yeah, let's jump into it. What's like general, like if you had to sum this movie up in 5 words, and sorry, I did not prep you guys for this, but this is what we're gonna do for each movie. Sum this movie up in 5 words just to kind of get it started of how you feel about this.
Okay. Kind of like haiku style.
Yeah.
Mine is gonna be should be bad but not.
I like that. Very apt.
Clip show, everybody dies, cool.
Everybody does cool.
I'd say that, like, Purple Man kills people. Why?
Can I use comic book as one word?
Sure.
Okay, comic book, Lord of the Rings.
Alright.
Okay, you're gonna need to explain that. So full on conversation. We'll jump right into it. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so when I first saw the trailer for Infinity War, I thought it was gonna be a thing where like you have like the Fellowship of the Ring, where like you have the group of people which are our Marvel heroes, obviously, and then they're gonna split off. Like a small group of them are gonna try and do the thing that actually defeats Sauron, aka Thanos, and then you're gonna have like the rest of them doing like other stuff, like distracting the eye, or
Like the Two Towers.
yeah, or like what else? Like just like fight, like saving Gondor or whatever.
Right.
So you're gonna like the fight in Wakanda would be like the battle of
Comes deep.
yeah, or the one in the third movie where like Rohan and Gondor are both fighting Pelennor Fields.
Yes.
I drew that out because I didn't want everyone to know that I knew what it was called right away. But yeah, so I thought it was gonna be something like that, which it kind of is. You have like Iron Man and Spider-Man and the Guardians going after Thanos like directly, and then you have like the big war in Wakanda.
That's fair.
Yeah, so but actually I just realized it's not really a review, but whatever.
So I think my overall impression was like, I expected this to be a complete mess because how many characters do you have in this movie? And like, all the criticism that I thought I was going to give this movie, I actually still have that criticism, but it still works. Like, there's no main protagonist human character for the good guys, which that should be bad for a movie, but still somehow this works. And it's more of like a season finale than its own episode, so going into this movie as somebody, like, if you haven't seen any of the other stuff, won't make any sense. But I appreciate how much they did with Thanos. Like, they actually made him somewhat realistic, and like, they could have done better, but for what it was supposed to be, I was pretty happy.
He
with
was
it.
actually a character.
He was actually a
and
character.
not
Yeah.
just bad guy doing the thing.
Yes.
Yeah, like you got into his motivation. You saw him feel some feelings.
Yeah.
I think one of the best things is like, I want to know more about him, and like, they couldn't give him the full, but like, I want to have a full like Avengers 4 movie where it's just like him for an hour and a half. Like, what are you doing? Like, you've killed half the universe.
He's
You're watching the
farming on his
sunset.
planet.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what is that like?
It just turns
What do
into
you-
like a domestic life where he's like mowing his lawn and he's
He's like learning how to make sushi. Like,
And then at the very end, it's like
hardest
5
part is
minutes where like
rolling
they
it.
beat him and like use the time stone to move it all back or something, and it's like whatever.
It's an afterthought, like 5 minutes at the
Yeah.
end. They're like,
yeah.
But I'm also the one who wanted Avengers 2 to basically be like a corporate retreat where Tony Stark brings everyone on like those corporate retreats you go like on with executives, and they do like personality tests, like this is how we
Yeah.
gotta work together, guys. So
Like trust
Yeah.
exercises.
so whatever I want is never gonna work in a movie, but like that's what I want Avengers 4 to be.
Yeah.
Do you think that's how they'll get the Hulk to actually Hulk out in the next one? Get him to do a trust fall?
and they actually
finally
drop him.
pops.
So
And then he'll just crush whoever's behind him.
I need a little more movie insider knowledge. So the whole reasoning behind Hulk not transforming is this a legal dispute behind the scenes? It's okay.
They said they're
Right.
having a 3-movie character arc for the Hulk, which is Thor Ragnarok, Infinity War, and then whatever Avengers 4 is going to be.
Okay.
So like, I actually think that's a good element of a character, but like, again, he gets like 5 minutes of screen time. So over the span of those 3 movies, he's going to have like a regular movie's worth of character arc,
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather have that than a standalone Hulk movie.
which they can't do actually.
What?
For legal
They
reasons?
don't
Because
have the
it
rights to
sucks,
do
or-
a Hulk
Oh, I
think
standalone
it's
movie.
Sony.
Universal holds those rights, but they can put him as a character in another movie.
Oh, I just
Okay.
thought it was because they've all been bad. So
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, how many times are you going to try
how
to
many
make...
actors?
Yeah, stop trying to make fetch happen.
But that being said, I do like Mark Ruffalo as Hulk like a lot.
Yeah, I
He's-
think
he's
he's...
great.
Yeah, I like him. I wouldn't want a whole movie of him, though.
I think there's a movie there. Like, I'm glad he's a supporting character because he's better like that. But like, especially what they did with him in Ragnarok. Like, I thought
That's
that
the
was, like, a good
maximum
character.
Hulk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That-
I did
in
enjoy
the
him in
movie.
Ragnarok. In this one, he was such like a part of the backdrop. I mean, for obvious reasons, but
So kind of mentioning that is like the subtle backstories that was a lot in Infinity War, and so there was like him meeting Scarlett Johansson again for the first time, which was like, oh, you know, there's some history there, but they don't really do it. And that's what I kind of like with like the human stories on this character is like they didn't feel the need to make it too obvious. And I was reading some of what the Russos have said afterwards, which they've been saying way too much, by the way. But one thing that I really liked that they kind of explained why the Avengers lost. And it was talking about the weaknesses of our heroes, that Captain America didn't want to trade lives for lives. And that cost them in the end.
Right.
And then Thor, going for the chest instead of the head, he wanted to do that because he wanted Thanos to know that he beat him, and that's why he lost. And so it's like...
They said that?
Yes. That was intentional. And then like Star-Lord punching Thanos when he was
Too
asleep.
emotional.
It's like, these are all very heroic, realistic things for our heroes to be doing,
Right.
but it made them lose.
Right.
And so I like that.
Yeah, that's interesting how it's like them being selfish in the way that they wanted to win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cost them. Yeah, I think it was more interesting the fact that they lost. The thing that I liked about this movie, like, I didn't really have a lot of interest in seeing it in the theater, and then you guys were like, we're watching it for the podcast. And so Tyler had seen this before me and was like, are you going to see it? And I was like, probably not till it's on Netflix. And so he told me the ending before I went, which, like, I'm not mad about. Like, it didn't really... It was interesting watching the movie knowing the ending. But what I really liked about this movie was seeing the new kind of combinations of superheroes that like we haven't seen before.
Yeah,
so like
I like that.
Yeah, so like the, you know, putting the egos of Doctor Strange and Tony
Oh, yeah,
Stark
that was
together
good.
was pretty cool.
Even the small moments of like, there's one moment where a Winter Soldier picks up Rocket Raccoon and there's like firing in a circle.
yeah.
It's like, that's all you need. You don't need a big character arc. It's just a little moment like that and it's good.
Yeah, it's good. And I know we've seen Stark and Spider-Man together before, but I kind of like what Spider-Man seems to bring out in Tony Stark. Like, he wants to help him and feels, I think, a little bit protective, and it's in a more, or I guess a less selfish way than we often see from Stark, who tends to be pretty narcissistic.
And one thing I like about the Spider-Man is like, they at least had one of the characters die slowly so that there was some meaning to it.
Yeah.
And that was like, and this is the cynical side of me coming out, is like, yeah, they all died, but I wanted to see them in more pain. I wanted to
Only Spider-Man gave
You heard it here first, folks.
But like Loki and Idris Elba, I forget his name, Heimdall, like you could see them die, and it's like there's these comics out there where it's Punisher kills the Marvel Universe and Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe, and it's just like it's a solo adventure where you get to see all the heroes die, and for me that's what this kind of was. But it's like when they just fade away at the end, like you see Black Panther fade away, but you know he's coming back because he's Black Panther, and that movie made a ton of money, and so
Yeah.
it's like if you're gonna die, I want to see you like painfully die.
Yeah, and I think like the choice of who died, I mean, I don't know why they like what that decision-making process was, but like based on who they chose, I'm like, okay, well, they're obviously, some of them are going to come back, right? Like they're not going to kill Black Panther after this big movie this year.
And
But-
the Spider-Man movie is 2 months after Avengers 4, so
Yeah, so
But that could still work as like before the events of Avengers.
yeah, so I think it
Side
like no, but it took away from, I think, what they wanted to be like this big moment of all these people dying that you've been
Yeah.
sort of bonding with over these many movies. But,
But
it's
the
like,
thing I like about it is that the characters who are left are eventually the original Avengers, and so we get to see their character arcs out of
Okay.
like because I think it's really interesting to go into the world of those characters in a world where everyone has died, because we know those characters the best, and I want to see like because there's rumors that Avengers 4 is going to be like 5 or 10 years later, of like how do those guys cope with just like hey, Tony Stark, you brought this kid into the Avengers, and because of that, like, he died, and he died in front of you. I'm like, I want to see your pain for 5 years. I want to see whether you quit being an Avenger because of that. Like, I want to see all that stuff.
But he did that twice.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
this
well.
time it's going to be a much
It's-
bigger beard. We're not going to stop at goatee. We're going to go all the way. Full morning beard.
Yeah, that is a good.
yeah, you want like
good
the
point.
R-rated Iron Man, like what they did with
He
Logan.
hits rock bottom. He's become a raging alcoholic.
Yeah. That's what I
He
want to
just
see.
Elon Musk's the Earth into into the sun. He's just done.
I mean, setting it like 10 years into the future or like after those events will give it like a little more. It like half solves the problem of we know they're not coming back, because it shows like you'll kind of sympathize, I guess, with the characters. Like, oh, they've had to deal with this for so long. Everyone's so sad.
And I also want to see what Thanos does for 5 years, because obviously he justifies all this as like doing good for the universe, but I bet after 5 years he's going to be kind of bored, and he's just going to start killing people, and he's be like, wait, did I do this because it was right or just because I like killing people? So like, I want to see that.
I wanted to get this in. What did you think of the very pointed Thanos will return?
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't so much Thanos will return as much as you're not saying the rest of the people will return, which obviously they will, but
Yeah.
But yeah, like I want to see that. That's the thing I'm most looking forward to. Is again, I want a whole movie about Thanos. I don't give a shit about all these Avengers. Give me Thanos the movie.
Man, it's been the summer of Josh Brolin. It's just,
Yeah.
Just cleaning up.
But we'll get to that
yeah.
later.
Well, he only did one good movie, so
What?
All
Wait,
right.
what? Like ever?
one good character this summer.
Oh, okay. Well, it's, wait, what? You just finished saying. I'm confused. Oh, that
I'm
means
saying
you don't
Cable's
like
a
Cable.
shit character,
He's like the Terminator.
I have things to say about that.
and we will get to that.
Yeah.
So we're saying a lot of positive things about Infinity War. What are like your major negatives?
All the negatives are always going to be kind of tinged with like, I like that they did this, but they didn't do it enough of it.
Like what?
So I don't want to jump too far ahead for where we're going, but all three of these movies to me interact with fans in a very different way. They all kind of they throw out hints in different ways. They have jokes in different ways. The humor in Avengers, you know, they upped their ante from Avengers 2. It was definitely a lot of comedy moments. Jokes could have landed. I don't know. I like the Guardians of the Galaxy or Thor Ragnarok.
Thor.
Like every beat is a joke that hits. Just solid stuff. I mean, that's not what you should expect out of Avengers, but it would be very cool.
I think it was a casualty of having so many characters because like you have the main joking part was like the Guardians of the Galaxy when they met Thor.
Yeah.
And that was
Yes.
like joke.
Yeah.
But then the rest of the movie was like it's not that because there's so many characters that they have to fit in.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, they like
I was gonna ask how you guys felt about Guardians of the Galaxy, because for me it felt like someone, because Sean Gunn's been directing the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and for me this very felt like someone trying to imitate the Guardians of the Galaxy and not really them. But I've heard other people say that it's like it felt completely seamless, that it was like as if Sean Gunn had wrote those scenes. So like, where do you guys fall in?
I didn't know there was a different like writer.
Director, like the
Director,
guy who
right.
directed the Guardians movies
Yeah.
versus the Russo brothers.
Yeah, I mean, it felt very on brand for me for the Guardians for this film.
Maybe they like improvised enough so that it was really just them doing their thing.
The only scene that I felt was like really felt like the Guardians was when Drax was trying to pretend to be invisible. I was like, that actually feels like the same type of humor.
Yeah.
The rest of it was kind of like, okay.
I think the thing that works so well about Guardians of the Galaxy is their personalities are super strong, but they're never like that front and center all the time. Like there's always focus going on to like the situation that's at hand.
No single one of them is.
No single one of them is outshining, but you know, in this where you're kind of pulling them apart and sort of putting them in different situations, I think it's hard to find that kind of balance.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's no standalone Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but I had no complaints.
One negative that I will, well, not so much a negative, but seeing Tyrion Lannister kind of took me out of the movie a bit.
So
Yeah.
I knew that was coming.
You did?
Because if you looked up IMDb, you could see that he was going to be this character. So as soon as they mentioned a dwarf and making a weapon, I was like, okay, it's going to be
Yeah.
Tyrion
Oh
Lannister.
man,
It was a little on the nose, like, oh, we have to see a dwarf.
Yeah.
love me some giant boy detective. Just,
But I like that he was like a giant.
Oh yeah, I liked that
There's always
that
that.
one part of it.
Yeah.
But it was just like you're not this other guy. You're Tyrion Lannister.
Yeah, it was a little. My friend that I saw the movie with, like when he showed up on screen, she just started laughing. I was
That,
like,
that
what?
reminds me of a moment that we're going to talk about later on in the solo segment.
I wonder what moment that is.
Who shows up and we all start laughing? I have no idea.
I actually thought Carson was gonna like that moment, but
I'm really conflicted.
I have a lot of feelings about that moment.
We will get to that. But
Okay.
one of the things I really liked about Infinity War is, like, for as many characters as they had, like, it was really boiled down to, like, you understood what was going on with a few moments. Like, there was the adventure with Thor and Raccoon going one place, and Star-Lord going one place, and Iron Man's group met up with them, and it's like there was 2 or 3 central locations where things were happening, so it wasn't all over the place. And then you could get that Thor and Raccoon moment. You could get the Iron Man and Doctor Strange moment while still being, like, a coherent plot. So, I don't know, like, I'm not going to say it's like the... I don't... Actually, okay, here's a question for you guys. Marvel movies all time, where do you rate this? There's been 19 Marvel movies at this point.
Oof. I would put it like somewhere in the middle. I mean, to be honest, I go into most Marvel movies with like a pretty low expectations because I'm not that invested in the universe, and so I go in, and if it's fun, then I'm happy. Whereas with movies in the Star Wars franchise, I have a lot more expectations, so it like really colors how I feel about the films when I see them. So you know what? I thought Infinity War was good. I'm not gonna rewatch it, I would say. Like, it's not high in my list of ones that I want to watch. I am excited for Thor Ragnarok to come on Netflix, though. Like, I will rewatch that one. I thought it was fine.
For me, this was probably the biggest upset out of any Marvel movie I've seen.
Upset as in bad? Like
No, upset as in, like, my expectations were completely flipped.
Okay.
I came in expecting Avengers 2 level, like completely fractured plot line, trying to cobble together a story I don't care about. But it totally flipped me, and by the end, I liked where the focus was for most of the movie. I liked the villain that they characterized much more into it than I was with Age of Ultron. And I would put this maybe like 3rd or 4th of all Marvel movies.
That's about in line with what I was gonna say. Somewhere between 3 and 6, because I know for sure Ragnarok and Logan are in front of.
I'm gonna say MCU.
Oh,
Ooh.
I guess that bumps it up to 2. But I'm sure there's something like I have a short-term memory. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So like the movies that I've watched like way back, like maybe the original Iron Man or whatever. Those are I might put them in front of Infinity, like one of them or 2 of them. So that's why it's like somewhere between 3 and 6.
Yeah, I think I'd echo Tyler and Paulo. Like, I think this is probably number 3 or number 4. I still think Iron Man is the best Marvel movie.
The first one?
For MCU, anyway. I had low expectations, and they actually surpassed it. And I think the biggest compliment I can give this movie is, like, I actually want to see Avengers 4. Because I went into this thinking, like, I'm done with Marvel. I'll watch them, but I won't watch them all opening weekend. But now I'm going to see Avengers 4 opening weekend.
They took serious risks, and it paid off, for sure.
I like them taking risks. Because that's the thing I hate against the most is, like, they just do the safest thing. So I appreciate that. Any last comments you guys want to get in here before we end off this segment?
Yeah. Sorry, one really quick one. When Ant-Man and the Wasp comes out, I really hope that the movie ends with the bad guy just dissolving.
Yeah.
I want that to be the premise of the movie where they dissolve at the beginning and then they have to pull off a heist because there's less people around.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
I want them to work someone dissolving into that movie.
That would be
That's
interesting.
That's all I was going to say.
When I was thinking about like who died in this movie, like I wasn't thinking about it's like kind of the OG people left over. I was like, this is an opportunity to like clean house and like make room for, I don't know, more women and people of color.
I think it's going to be Avengers 4.
Yeah, but like, I mean, that only matters if everyone stays dead.
So how do you feel about the big Captain Marvel setup?
What's Captain Marvel?
Okay, never mind.
Brie Larson is Captain Marvel. That's what.
She's going to be the person to save the day.
The Clash at Demon Head,
Yes.
Brie Larson.
right.
Nice.
Sign me up.
That was the
Someone
movie I
understood the
picked.
reference.
Yes.
All right, so we're gonna end that segment. We're gonna jump in here, get to know our guests a little bit more. And Tyler, we're gonna start with you. So
And you can't pass it off.
Yeah.
Cannot pass this
Not
off.
this one.
I can't pop quiz, asshole.
Not yet.
Okay.
You can after we're done. I have 5 questions for you, and this is kind of like end of Family Feud style. Give us whatever the first thing that pops into your head. These are going to be a bunch of random questions. So we're going to begin. First question: pick an inanimate object to be the lead character in a movie.
Oh man.
AKA make a Pixar movie.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. My mind just as soon as you said inanimate, my mind just goes to The Simpsons Inanimate Carbon Rod. Inanimate Carbon Rod, the movie. Maybe that's a little too TV, but
All right, we'll use that. Next question: favorite movie when you were 10 years old?
oh man. When I was 10 years old, I vacillated heavily between Conan the Barbarian and Neverending Story. I guess I was a big fantasy head. And Page Master. This is very telling of what kind of kid I was.
Yes.
If
Did
you could
you
go
like
on a
to-
road trip with any movie character, who would you choose?
Ooh. Man, this is good. I was really into Logan, but like I think we could just do a complete genre reversal and it's just gonna be some sort of like, I don't know, coming of age.
With
Like,
Logan?
yeah.
So
Yeah,
you're gonna be
like
the little
finding
girl.
ourselves.
And it ends with you dying, probably.
Yeah. Just looking out to the sunset.
Which Wes Anderson movie would you want to be a side character in?
Oh man. I would always like to be a dog. I think I would love that.
That's a good choice.
That was Isle of Dogs. It was a pretty fun little setting.
Okay, and then last question: which pre-1960s movie needs a remake?
Pre-1960s.
I would never be able
Holy
to answer
smokes.
this question.
Took advantage of some film knowledge.
Yeah.
You know. Let's
Our audience does not know.
oh. I'm trying to think.
You can take extra time for this one.
Yeah, this one's
Because I'm curious now.
this one's a goodie.
When did Bridge come out?
Yeah, I was just thinking that Bridge on the River Kwai. How would that translate to today?
But,
How
like, would you wanna
remake Bridge
risk
on
a
the River
remake?
Kwai? That's the thing.
Your favorite film?
It's
Turn it
one of
into a
those
loud
don't
action
meet your
movie?
heroes moments where it's just
That's a good point.
gonna leave it as Alec Guinness being a boss.
All right, you got 5 seconds. What is it?
Oh, there was a really good movie called The Grand Illusion.
Yes.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
A World War One, very, very like kind of real for its time, kind of getting into the whole idea of, you know, war and fighting and what is a country and nationalism that, you know, I think would still translate really well today.
I just want to shout out quickly before Carson cuts me off because I'm bad at hosting. At Houston, we have a podcast. It's our Instagram. It's live. Follow us. You get posts on any updates.
All right, pop quiz, asshole. That's right. A guest is coming in with a pop quiz this time.
Well done.
I don't know how I discovered this great happenstance, but I was just kind of going through IMDb just on a little stroll one day.
As
and
one
I,
does.
Yes, one does. And I had this great epiphany of there are a lot of Nick Cage movies, and a lot of them sound like names of energy drinks. So can you, fair hosts and listeners at home, tell me which of these is a Nick Cage movie and which of these is an energy drink?
So who's all participating here?
I think she knows a fair few of them.
Oh, you know the answers already?
So
Like some
I'm
of
just
it. So this will be for
just
me and
throwing
Paula.
out for
Yeah.
you and Paula.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So first, is this a film by Nick Cage or is this an energy drink? Number 1, Rumblefish.
Shit.
I'm gonna say energy drink.
I'm going to say Nick Cage movie.
This one goes to Paula.
Yeah!
This was one of Nick Cage's earliest films. I think his second film after Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
He was in Fast Times?
He was in Fast Times.
What?
He was.
As who?
Oh, no. I think it was a
Probably
pretty
like
minor
jock,
character.
like an asshole.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, side note, really quick side note. In high school, one of my teachers, apparently, one of his friends recommended Fast Times to him, and he showed it to my class in high school.
Hey, kids.
He had to cut it off so early.
I got this movie solely based on the cover image. It's called Boogie Nights. I think you'll like it.
Right around the time the guy was jacking off to the girl coming out of the pool. He had to cut it off.
Oh, that's great.
That's my story.
Oh, man.
As like a quick callback to my Ladybird reference, in my grade 10 English class, in my Catholic high school, we were watching The Merchant of Venice, the one with Jeremy Irons in it.
Al Pacino.
Yes, magnificent. And my English teacher was like covering the boobs on the TV screen in my grade 10 class. So good times.
We just got Roman Polanski's Macbeth, where you got to see the big saggy boobies. It was great.
Didn't know that was a thing. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go on.
So Rumblefish, the point that goes to Paulo, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. It was filmed on a budget of $10 million, made $2.5 million back. So
He's made a lot of shit movies. So
yeah, a pretty big flop for the time.
Cage started early in the flop business, in the flop industry.
And has continued.
All right, next one up, Urge Intense. Is this a film by Nick Cage or an energy
it's an
drink?
energy drink.
That's an energy drink.
Oh, damn, you got it right away. Urge Intense, a citrus-flavored soft drink produced by Coca-Cola Norway.
Or like a soft core porn by Nick Cage.
Yeah. They later went on to create the drink Surge.
The sequel.
The sequel.
What's the energy drink from Futurama?
Slurm.
Yes, that's what I mean. It sounds the same.
I guess that one's off the quiz. Next one up, Vault.
No, that's an energy drink.
I'm gonna say movie.
Movie? Man, another point for Paulo.
Oh, I'm so good.
You're 3 for 3, aren't you?
I'm not. I'm a little bit ashamed about this, actually.
A sweetened carbonated beverage that was released by the Coca-Cola Company. They just keep coming out with this crap.
I've actually tried that one. I think
yeah.
that's why I wanted that one.
They were marketed with such slogans as "Drinks like a soda, kicks like an energy drink. The taste, the quench, the kick.
We're getting the synopsis for the energy drinks too. I love it.
Yeah.
Chug and charge." Oh man, doesn't it just make you want to, just go to town? All right, coming up next. Oh, this one's a goodie. G-Force.
Oh man, I'm gonna say energy drink.
I'm gonna say movie.
This one is in fact a movie.
Damn!
Carson evening this out. So G-Force, a CG animated masterpiece where Nick lends his voice to a team of super spy rodents.
Oh my god, I know this
He
one!
plays a
too.
hamster named Speckles.
So I actually knew that there was a movie called G-Force, but I didn't know that he was in it, so I was just assuming there was a different movie called G-Force.
Oh my god! I remember watching like previews of this movie.
This is not easy, is it? I'll skip over that one. That was easy.
I came in a
That
little
one
too
is
confident
easy.
to this game.
All right. Relentless.
Nick Cage movie.
I'm gonna say movie too.
No, this is an energy
Oh
drink.
my god!
Released in February 2006. The drink has also been subject of a court proceedings for breach of trademark by Relentless Records. There's a surprising amount of drama in the energy drink world.
More drama than Nick Cage movies. All right, last one here.
Last one. All right.
Is this a tiebreaker?
Two
it's
more.
3-2.
Two more.
For who?
It's 3-2 for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I get this right, we'll go to a tiebreaker.
Street King.
Oh, that's the Nick Cage movie.
No, I'm gonna say energy drink.
This is an energy drink.
No!
Because Street Kings is a movie, but not Street King.
Yeah.
Fuck! Who names your energy drinks Street King.
Well, I'll tell you who. American rapper Curtis 50 Cent Jackson
Fuck
does.
you, 50 Cent. Go back into retirement.
Oh, man.
All right,
Well,
now
I
this
don't
is the
think he's
tiebreaker
making
now.
it big on energy drink money because it went under in April 2018. So R.I.P. Street King.
Did
Well,
anyone
I'm
see
gonna-
the new 50 Cent movie?
Den of Thieves.
Yes.
I'm gonna watch it again to watch him die. Oh, sorry.
Strong feelings.
All right.
I'm just mad I lost that last round.
So here's the tiebreaker. Arsenal.
Nick Cage movie.
No, I'm gonna go energy drink.
Please.
This is a Nick Cage movie.
Yes!
That's probably the biggest cheer this movie has ever received. With a riveting 3% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, that's the one.
Brothers take on a local crime boss. Ooh. Yeah, there's some good
riveting.
ones. There's also Rage, which is, get this, both an energy drink and a Nick Cage movie.
That would have been a good one.
So,
Nice.
can please anybody.
Nice.
You realize this is the only time I've beaten you in one of our competitions in all of the episodes.
I think you want to fight once.
Did I?
Because we don't go against, because either one or you or me is the judge, so we don't often compete against each other.
One of the first, out of the first fights where it was against.
The only two fights we've had is this one, and then episode 1, where I beat you in the Scorpion King versus
You
Agent
always
Smith.
bring that up before I can.
All right, let's jump into our second movie here. We're talking about Deadpool 2. So we're gonna do the same thing of 5 words to describe this movie. While you guys are thinking about that, because I assume you didn't do anything, I'm gonna spoil what my thoughts are. So I brought up the Jesus reference earlier. Some like a reference that I think both Deadpool 2 and Jesus have in common is that it's not too bad in itself, but the fans kind of ruin it.
Oh my god!
Yes.
Deadpool, it has some okay jokes, but I fucking hate the fans, man. There was a 10-year-old kid sitting behind me, and his dad was explaining the whole movie to him.
No.
There was a
Oh,
row
no.
of people in front of me, 6 of them that were all on their phone the entire time. And it completely echoed my experience with Deadpool 1, where I went opening night, and it was all people trying to make jokes during the movie to make themselves look funny.
No.
I hate Deadpool fans. If you ever go to a Comic-Con and see someone dressed as a Deadpool, it's somebody who's pathetic, who's trying to make themselves look funny.
You know what?
But
I,
that said, the movie's not that bad.
I listened to another movie podcast, and one of the
How dare you?
Cheating on us.
I'm sorry, I was cheating on your podcast. But one of the guests on the show said, yeah, this movie is great, but I think I've seen too many Deadpool cosplays to really enjoy it.
All right, so what are your guys' 5-word reviews of the movie? Does anyone have one
I'll
yet?
start.
Okay.
It's Deadpool. You laugh now.
A bit of a cop-out, but yes, more.
Whoa.
Wow.
We're gonna have differing opinions on this one, I think.
Mine is Terminator, Deadpool, New Zealand.
Oh.
Mine is some good, some bad, whatever. All right, so the one I'm most curious about, Tyler, why are you so positive?
I maybe oversold it with the many yeses.
Maybe?
But it's, I don't know, for me, it's like playing Saints Row 2, which is just this goofy shoot 'em up video game.
I know that one.
Yeah, it knows what it is. It is what it is. I like how it plays with fans. I like the kind of gratuitous in-jokes that it's dropping, but you still, even when the joke isn't landing 100% with you, it still reverberates and hits and it's funny. I'm referring to the, I'm seeing some puffed out faces.
No.
I really like that one where it's Deadpool and Domino and he says, "You were invented by a guy that can't even draw feet," or something like that. A reference to Deadpool's creator who cannot draw feet.
I think I completely missed that joke when I was watching the movie.
Exactly, but it's still, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of them, so.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably something we can probably all agree on is there's hits and there's misses in Deadpool. So what were some of your biggest misses and what were some of your biggest hits in terms of the jokes?
I think it's like the Kobe Bryant of movies. Because like if you jack up enough shots, If Kobe jacks up enough shots, they're gonna. This is bad. This is a bad example because Kobe is a good
this
scorer.
a sports analysis?
Yes, sorry. Kobe Bryant shoots a lot of shots. He scores a lot. No, sorry. Let's change it to Russell Westbrook. I'm getting too far in the weeds here. Russell Westbrook shoots a lot of shots. He scores 50 points because he shoots 50 shots.
You're going to turn into the dad having to explain to his 10-year-old son, this is a game called basketball where you shoot...
Is this
What
where
is
you
the
throw
J.R.
baskets
Smith
at
of
nets?
movies?
The J.R. Smith of movie is probably the Nicolas Cage one that got 3%. Sorry, I digress. But like the biggest problem I had with Deadpool 2 is that like, and it's weird. I have like an internal conflict because I like stupid things. Not to say that it's like completely stupid, but like it's like dumb. Like there's some dumb humor, and then the meta jokes are like not quite dumb, but like they're pretty funny, but also at the same time dumb. But it just felt like so much, like everything that came out of his mouth had to be a joke. And I guess it falls in line with his character. Like he's supposed to be annoying. He's supposed to be like wisecracking all the time. But I just like I had fatigue by the end of the movie. Like I don't know.
So Deadpool 1, I think, again, similar, had a lot of hits and a lot of misses. I think there were more hits and less misses in Deadpool 2 than in Deadpool 1, which made me like it more than I thought, but I really had to ignore some of the misses because the misses were bad.
What were the misses?
So the ending where he dies like 5 times and they drag that on, I was like, I get what you're going for,
Yeah.
but this just like completely sucked the energy out of the whole movie for me. And then like when they immediately open the movie to a toy of Logan spinning on like the when he gets killed.
Yeah.
Like, I hate the references parts, and like for me a lot of that didn't work. The big wins for me were the baby legs ones. I was like, that was funny.
The X-Men in the other room.
I was surprised by that. I was like kind of on the fence. And
I
then there
actually
was
liked that one.
The whole team dying right away.
That was great.
Like
That was excellent.
as soon as it happened, I was like, yeah, I don't know why I didn't see that coming, but it was still funny.
Also Brad Pitt.
Yeah,
I knew like as
that
soon
was
as
awesome.
they had somebody where it's like an Invisible Man, it's like this is a cameo 100%.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that. So, but as soon as you saw like all those characters are like a guy whose power is to vomit on somebody, you're like, yeah, okay, it seems totally reasonable for all these people to die. But one thing I loved in this movie was all the actors who I'm like, wait, who is that person? Because the guy who was the throw up person is the guy who plays the clown in the new It movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Oh,
there's
snap.
Diego Luna, who's in Rogue One, who played the villain at the beginning.
Wait, which villain?
So he plays the villain who killed his girlfriend.
That was Diego Luna?
That's Diego Luna.
Oh.
And so there's all these people that I'm like, oh, that's that guy.
He didn't even have any lines.
He had like a couple, but yeah, he was like very minor. Side comment. So I saw the movie Frida for the first time. I don't know if you know this one.
What?
Like the Mexican artist.
Sharp
Frida.
left turn.
Frida Kahlo?
Yeah, Frida Kahlo, played by
Salma Hayek.
Salma Hayek.
With a unibrow.
Diego Luna plays like her young love interest in like Act 1 of that movie. And I was watching that and I was like, wait, who the fuck's that? And I was like, oh, that's Diego Luna. That guy that no one cares about from Rogue One.
I still like that movie. I don't care.
Oh, we'll get to that.
We'll get to you.
It's coming.
Bring it! I'm the Nicolas Cage champion. I'll take you guys all.
Take all coming.
Says a lot about my taste.
It also
but-
had some gratuitous Vancouver cityscape porn.
Was
I
it
did
filmed in
not notice
Vancouver?
that.
It was filmed in
Yeah,
Vancouver.
totally.
Okay.
The only reason I know that is because the stunt person who died in Vancouver while filming it.
Oh,
Yeah,
R.I.P.
there was a stunt person who died while filming this movie.
Wow.
Like, Ryan Reynolds was really good about it. Like he posted a lot of really good stuff about her and like everything. But like, yeah, it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Moving on.
One of my biggest disappointments was the use of the New Zealand kid. I don't know if you guys have seen Hunt for the Wilder People.
Yeah, it's so
He basically
good.
plays the same character, but in Hunt for the Wilder People, he's so much better. Like,
Yeah.
And he doesn't have powers.
Yeah.
basically, like he's what's the guy's name? Sam Neill.
Yeah, from Jurassic Park.
Yeah, him and this kid in a movie where they're like in the wilderness, like, and he's like the same character of like a loud talking kind of youngster who's like a kid but acts like an adult. Hilarious movie, funny, great.
It's
Same
so
guy who directed
good.
Thor Ragnarok, by the way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Taika Waititi.
Yeah. And so like he just seemed like an imitation of that character as opposed to like that character.
That's
Yeah.
what I felt too. And a lot of the funny moments for him didn't land for me.
The
like
kid?
the whole prison pocket, Shiv sort of thing.
Some of
It
them
was-
landed.
It was chuckle worthy.
I-
But
I feel like I'm crazy now because like some of the things that I did find funny are everything like you guys are naming that.
Oh!
You know, and like, I mean, I did.
I mean, that's why it works. Everyone's gonna find something funny about it.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, like if you shoot that many shots, you're gonna land with someone.
But like you have the basketball reference there as like you shoot a lot of shots and some of the jokes land, but I feel like the jokes are so diverse that for everyone it's going to be 50-50. Like
yeah.
people have
Ah,
different
that's fair,
tastes
yeah.
in jokes, and like these people are going to like these jokes, these other people are going to like these jokes, but overall everyone gets some that they like and some that they don't like.
I think that's what I was trying to say, but better. So thank you.
Yeah, I think Julian Dennison was probably my biggest disappointment for this movie because I had like really the New Zealand actor.
Oh.
Because yeah, I really loved him in Hunt for the Wilder People, and I'd heard an interview with him before seeing Deadpool. But yeah, he played kind of just like a less good version of his Hunt for the Wilder People.
It's probably more
character.
interesting if you haven't seen Hunt for the Wilder People.
I
Yeah,
haven't, and
I
I actually
agree.
thought he was point to that
Yeah.
point. I thought
Well,
I liked him.
Yeah, and I mean, I think part of it too is like Ryan Reynolds is always going to be the funniest one in these movies, right? Like that's sort of the nature of his character, is that that's the role he plays, is kind of the jackass.
But, like,
that's ridiculous,
LeBron
but-
James reference, he can't carry the whole team by himself. He needs some supporting cast.
Yeah,
I thought like his supporting cast was a bit weak. The New Zealand kid was like his Kevin Love, and then there was nobody after that. Cable was the most disappointing part of this movie.
Oh yeah, Josh Brolin coming back.
Wait,
The other big baddie.
Yeah, I actually kind of disagree with that because I feel like a lot of the stuff that I found funny didn't have much to do, like it wasn't coming from Ryan Reynolds or Deadpool. Like a lot of like
fair.
seeing the parachute in the air by its like that kind of stuff, and like what else? There's other stuff.
I like that they had more original humor as opposed to relying on references like the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there was an example, he was fighting Cable for the first time, and then he like breaks his arm and starts choking him with his arm, and it's like that's just a funny thing that's you can do with Deadpool's character because
Right.
it has like infinite regeneration.
Yeah.
So it's like stuff like that I liked, and they did more of that.
Yeah, I mean, I did find Cable to be kind of like Terminator light.
Especially at the end, like
Yeah.
they set him up with like this mystery, and then they never did anything with it.
Yeah, and I also thought it was like a little, I don't know, weak to have Deadpool and Cable have sort of their motivations to be the same. It's like, oh, someone killed our family, whatever, right? And I get that that's, you know, a legitimate thing, but like as far as like hero motivation goes, but like for it to be kind of the same for both of them, like
It's a
really?
bit of a cop out at the end where he's just like, "Oh, my family will be fine in the future." Like,
Yeah,
that's
like,
your,
what?
that's the only reason you're part of this movie is like your family, right?
Yeah, what the fuck? Like, what are you gonna do now?
Yeah, like no one that he encountered in the past gave him any reason to like them more than his family.
yeah,
So it makes zero sense. And it reminds me of my second 5-word review. Just liked it better as Looper.
yeah, I was very Looper.
I'm being very like negative, but I did like the movie, but it did callbacks of Looper kept running through my mind.
It's actually I never thought about that, but now that you say it, yeah.
Yeah, like
definitely.
Cable is Bruce Willis, Deadpool is
Joseph-
Joseph Gordon-Levitt because his face is all messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
By far my favorite part of the movie, Juggernaut, which I don't know if you guys know, voiced by Ryan Reynolds.
I just learned
What?
that today.
Interesting.
I was
Even in
like
the
I actually looked it
originals?
up because I was like, who voiced that? Like I'm wondering who they did that, and I was like, oh, it's
Oh,
Ryan
no way.
Reynolds.
That's cool.
But I loved when he showed up. Like they were kind of foreshadowing like a bigger character, and then like I don't know, like they fucked up that character so much in X-Men: The Last Stand that for them to come back and do it some justice, I was like, yeah, as a fan, I kind of appreciate that.
Yeah, that was the thing that I heard a lot of people buzzing about is like the whole the reveal of Juggernaut was a big part of the movie.
They
I
did it very
enjoyed
well. Like,
Yeah. And I kind of like the mislead. Like, this is... We'll get more into this. I like movies that will lead you down one path and then zag right at the end.
and I liked how Juggernaut was like a completely insane character. Like, it
Yeah.
was really different than what we had seen with a lot of like characters that they do with that. It was like, it was so comical, like with how big he was even. Like,
Yeah.
it's almost more ridiculous than what the Hulk looks like. Like, it looks like a cartoonish character. And I thought that that worked. And like, you put something like that in Avengers Infinity War and you take a serious tone and you can't, like, it disrupts it. But in a silly movie like this, like, it actually works. So like, I appreciated that they got away with that. And like, I liked, even like, they didn't do much with it at the end, but even just for the one scene of like the reveal and then he rips Deadpool in half, I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
cool, that's
Yeah.
all I
I'm
need. That's all I
gonna
need.
tear your spine out now. some quality dialogue.
Although I feel like they like, because he's not Professor X's brother in the comics, is he?
He is.
Is he?
I watched a YouTube video and I learned everything I need.
We are
Everything I
experts.
didn't know about Juggernaut.
Because I knew his powers came from like a metal, but I didn't really know much about the character aside from that.
Oh, I still don't know a lot. Apparently, so the things I do know is he is Professor X's brother. His helmet keeps Professor X from going into his mind, like
right.
Magneto's.
It's like Magneto's, yeah.
Yeah, and his like something about his power where like if he has any amount of momentum, like even the tiniest amount, he's unstoppable.
The only reason I know that his power comes from a metal is because of the phone app Contest of Champions game, where it's like people fight against each other.
Yeah.
Because it said it. It's and like I don't read Marvel comic books, so that's the only reason I knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah, my only context for Juggernaut is I used to watch the X-Men Evolutions cartoon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he was on that one, but like I don't really remember anything about him except that he was just sort of this
So
unstoppable.
how did you
force.
feel about X-Men Apocalypse,
Which one was that?
the most recent X-Men movie?
The one with the with the Apocalypse. Yeah.
Oscar Isaac.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
No,
Yeah,
that's a
how
good
I
thing.
feel about it.
Don't watch it.
Okay, good to know. I'm not like I want to be more into these new X-Men movies, and I like the actors that are in them, but
So here's something I'm interested in asking you about.
okay.
This new X-Men movie, it's the Dark Phoenix movie that's about Sansa
Jean
Stark's
Grey?
character.
Yeah.
Jean Grey.
And they have
oh shit.
what's her character? Zero Dark 30. The actress's name. She was also in Molly's Game.
Jessica Chastain.
Jessica Chastain.
Okay.
She's in this?
They're building it up as kind of like a, not obviously, but like kind of like a female empowerment movie.
Okay.
And I want to ask you about what do you feel about those type of movies like Ocean's 8 and Ghostbusters. And I'll also
Those
throw
are bad examples.
and then also throw a good example of Annihilation in there of
Oh,
like,
okay.
here's movies that are kind of, I don't want to say like they're using female empowerment as a marketing play, but it's like they're using that more as
Ghostbusters did.
yes, Ghostbusters definitely did, but it's something.
Oh no! No, absolutely nothing happened to you listeners.
Our guest did not just spray beer in somebody's face.
Yeah,
Um,
not my face.
but anyway, so like, and I think this kind of get used in Black Panther a little bit as well, where like the social, like, equality of the like casting of movies becomes more of a marketing ploy than the movie itself.
tiptoeing
So
around
how do you feel
this.
about that?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I feel about it, and I haven't seen all these movies, but you know what? I'm down. Like, pander to the female audience. Like, honestly, at this point, like, I just am, like, really hungry for more representation. And even if it's not great, I think, like, just the volume of it is really important. And part of it, too, is, like, I think that, like, it, even if it fails, like, let female casts fail and then make more movies with them. Let female directors fail and then give them a chance to make more of these films. Because there's so many films, right? Like, all of film history is dominated by white men for the most part, and I think that just getting more voices out there is really important, and even if it's not done well, I think it's important to still do it.
Interesting.
That's how I feel.
And then
That's
the
a
next,
whole other conversation.
And then the next step is Asian people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there was that marketing campaign that came out. What's his name? John Cho?
John Cho.
Yeah. Because there's a marketing campaign where it's like John Cho's face photoshopped over like other actors.
Oh, I
front of,
saw
like, all
that,
these
yeah,
movie
yeah.
posters. And I was talking with you guys about this before we were recording, but there's a movie called Columbus, where he's phenomenal in it. But again, he's not drawing out big audiences, so no one really hears about the movie. But again,
I did
phenomenal
not hear
performance. Go see Columbus. Let's get back to Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
What's your general, like if you had to give it out of a 10, what would you give?
It was a very opposite reaction that I had with Infinity War, where I came in low, I left pretty high. Maybe not completely opposite, but with Deadpool, I came in high to mid, and I left high to mid. So overall, like a solid 7.5, pushing to an 8.
That's high.
pretty high,
I would
yeah.
echo kind of the way that you felt about Avengers Infinity War of like, I had some expectations for Infinity War, but I disliked Deadpool 1 so much that I came in with very low expectations.
You disliked Deadpool 1?
Mainly because of the fans.
But like the movie itself.
No, the movie had way too many references that just did not land for me, and it wasn't funny. There was like the things I liked in Deadpool 1 were the roommate and the taxi driver. And they had more stuff like that in Deadpool 2 where it was like original comedy that was more situational and not just like a reference.
I feel like Deadpool 1 had more of that.
Really?
A little bit. If I'm
More
not,
references?
Huh?
More references or more
No,
original?
I feel like Deadpool 2 had more references and Deadpool 1 was more situational because they were trying to like introduce the character.
Yeah.
Maybe. But I think a big part of this is my expectations were low because I didn't like Deadpool 1. So when it had some jokes that I liked, I was like, oh, that's funny. And that was it. That's all I needed to enjoy from it.
Wait, what was your rating?
Yeah, what was your rating?
I think I gave it a 6.5 to 7.
Okay.
Wait, that's your more enjoyed rating?
Yeah. I have very specific ratings. I rate everything out of 100, and like 70 is like my decent range.
You can go first.
I'd
not
give it a
much.
7 out of 10. I liked it. It wasn't my favorite thing in the world, but I thought it was really funny. I liked a lot of the jokes. I really liked Deadpool. I think he's a very interesting character. And one thing that I didn't mention, but I was thinking about with this film is I love the way that Deadpool's character plays with gender performance. And in the opening sequence, he's like wearing the heels and it's playing 9 to 5, and he's beheading everyone.
Oh yeah.
So that was one thing I liked. On Deadpool 1, they made jokes about things, but they didn't overcome them. Like, they had the credits jokes of like, oh, we have average European villain, and then they just had an average European villain. They made jokes in this one about like all the diversity stuff, but then they actually had a very diverse cast, and it was like overcoming what they were making fun of.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah, and then throughout the film, he's, his relationship with Colossus, is that the guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's flirting with him the whole time, and Colossus comes and saves him and is carrying him like he's a damsel, right? So I really, I think that sort of gender play is really interesting and really refreshing, especially in this universe.
Yeah, it mirrored the whole sequence with Colossus carrying Deadpool. It mirrored the slow motion part of Deadpool 1 where he actually first saw Vanessa after she had gotten it was in slow motion, and he was like doing this to her.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And then it was the same thing with him with being carried by Colossus. So that's a fair point.
Can I bring up one point? One thing we didn't really touch on this in Infinity Wars, but the use of CG in Deadpool is, they always nail it for me. They always do at least a couple gratuitous CG moments, like time slowdowns, fight scenes, stuff like that, where they're really showing off the capability of it. And they know what they're doing. It's a very
Infinity War, Deadpool.
Deadpool.
Okay.
The Infinity War was pretty much what you expect. There were some pretty good fight scenes, but nothing really pushing the limits of it.
But I think at the same time, the effects, like one of the more powerful effects was how he manipulates reality in Infinity War, and how like Drax turns to cubes when he comes out in time.
That is pretty
That
good.
was
Or
like
it's
ribbons.
You don't
Yeah.
even think of it as a gratuitous effect. It's just like it's a
That this
thing that
happened.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I felt they were more subtle with it, whereas like in Deadpool, they're like, this is a.
Oh yeah,
I would rank
They
them
go
about
full
the same
gratuitous.
for. I guess. Oh wait.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we have one left. What's the rating?
I give it like as much as I hated on it. Like while we are talking about it, I give it like a solid 7.5. I had another point and then I forgot. So let's
I'm
just move
glad
on.
that we're ending this episode on Solo because I feel like we're agreeing too much and it's gonna get a little bit heated. Anyway, we're gonna end this segment. We're gonna go into Rebecca. You're getting to know you questions. Also, did I say your names when we started off this episode?
Yes,
I
you
think
did.
so.
Because I feel like I didn't.
You're
You
drunk.
did.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Carson, go
Rebecca
home.
and
You're
Tyler.
drunk.
Okay, rapid fire questions. Who would you cast for yourself in a biopic of yourself?
Oh shit.
Serchi.
I mean, ideally, oh god, I've had too much beer. What's her name? Joan Holloway.
It's working.
Christina Hendricks.
Oh, that's a good
oh
one.
damn.
Fuck. Like in my ideal self. is Christina Hendricks. For the viewers at home, I have red hair.
If you had
Yeah,
to
that's
pick
what
one
Christina Hendricks
Infinity
has.
Stone to wield, which one would you wield?
Reality.
Why?
Oh.
Because you can change your reality. It just seems the most interesting to me. That I don't remember the
How
other
long?
stones.
How long does the reality change last?
Oh, that's a
As
good
long as you want
question.
I'm gonna go Dungeons and Dragons rules of as long as you're concentrating, because
Oh.
when they leave, it goes away.
Okay.
What color would your lightsaber be?
Purple.
That's a good one.
Good choice.
Any reason?
I just think it's the coolest. It's my favorite color.
So the Samuel L. Jackson rule.
Yep.
You can travel to any fictional planet. Which planet do you travel to?
Naboo.
You must
Sorry.
like sand.
No.
Wait. That's not Naboo. That's Tatooine.
Yeah, there you go.
Which one does Jar Jar Binks live on?
Naboo.
He chose a bad planet.
Not the Jar Jar Binks one. The part that they filmed in Spain and Italy.
If you
Spanish
had the
Naboo.
Force, what was the first thing that you would do with it?
I would use it to just like sit in one place and like bring my phone from across the room to me.
Phone, remote,
Yeah,
food.
all the things. Maybe fly. Yeah,
Can you fly?
if
You
you're
can
strong
jump.
enough.
A lot.
That's fair.
Yeah, I bet Yoda can fly. He just doesn't because he's cool.
All right. So one other question that we didn't get to that we wanted to at some point in there, and I forgot, is I was going to ask one of you guys who should play the next Wolverine. So let's do a roundtable on that. Who should play the next Wolverine in your guys' opinions? Because it's definitely going to happen in the MCU.
So is Hugh Jackman retired from
Yeah,
playing
he's done.
Wolverine
He's
now?
done.
He's like,
Does he have a son?
Can you say holographic Hugh Jackman?
Oh, they're going to Star Wars him.
Oh yeah, you know he's gonna
No.
be all dead faced and Polar Express eyes just looking right at you.
So any options?
I'm bad at this.
I want them to go like short and like just an animal type person where he's not even really a character. He's just like more of a thing.
Like an Emil Hirsch.
Oh.
Who's that?
Was in Lone
Oh.
Survivor.
Into
and
the
it's
Wild.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I know who that is.
the
Or Joaquin Phoenix. I think Joaquin Phoenix could pull it
He's
off.
too good for that shit. Do better than
He's too good looking.
Joel
no,
Edgerton.
he's too
No.
good of an actor.
Joel Edgerton.
That's fair.
Just in terms of looks.
But they're gonna cast like a 20-year-old.
Yeah, they are.
Taylor Kitsch.
He's like 40.
What?
He's old, I'm sure.
Oh, so it's just them casting him as like
All
every
right, so we have
20-year-old.
no good options for Wolverine. Let's move on.
In my mind, I'm trying to go for like the hairiest actor. Who's like the hairiest dude actor? It's not a thing right now.
No.
Like the only actor I can think that like has any body hair at all is the lead of Anchorman, Will
Ferrell?
Ferrell. There we go. We got there.
Yeah.
The only person that's coming to my mind right now, because we keep bringing him up on our episodes, are what's his name? The guy who was in Adam Devine. Is that his name?
Oh.
We keep mentioning him, so
Fuck
we just
no.
gotta keep that. streak
No.
going. Adam
God,
Devine
no.
as Wolverine. Okay.
Adam Driver as Wolverine.
Oh Jesus!
He could be good at everything.
The tallest, lankiest Wolverine.
The
There-
Wolverine that writes poetry on public transit.
Patterson is so good.
Is so good.
So our piece de resistance of the episode. The only reason I say that is because for some reason we've mentioned that term in like 4 of our episodes before. But our last movie that we're going to talk about, Solo. One of the most disappointing movies of the year.
According to some.
but tell me how you really.
All right, just start it off. What do you guys think? Or no, let's do the five words to explain the movie.
5 words to explain the movie. I guess I would say. The movie no one really asked for. That was 6. I can take the really out of there. The movie no one asked for.
I'm going to say no expectations, but still worse.
I thought it was going that direction. You ready or?
I'm not. You go.
Okay.
Yeah.
First half bad, more capes. You can interchange capes with Lando.
I did like Lando. No, I can't figure out my words.
Very childish, no Gambino.
Yeah.
You have one
Oh,
word
shoot.
to spare.
Uh,
You don't have to use all 5.
well, I
Just
don't know.
start saying words and then stop at 5 or add. That's
Okay.
what we usually do.
How about
4 to 6 words.
no Death Star this time.
Hey!
That's right.
There we go.
Yeah, that's good.
So what is there to like about this movie? Someone please answer that.
So not Han Solo himself.
You didn't like him?
No.
I actually liked him later in the movie.
I wanted
I thought
him
he
to
was
have.
one of the only good things about the movie.
Okay. I wanted
Whoa.
him to have more charisma. I liked that it took place in the Star Wars universe, but that it wasn't about like the Death Star and the Jedi.
I appreciated
and,
that, yeah.
Like I liked that it did some interesting like world building stuff. I thought it was fun to watch a heist movie in this universe.
There was a
I like
heist
the
movie
i-
in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I like the idea of making a heist movie, but when it's really boring, that's not interesting.
That's the first half for me, though. Like, the first half was boring.
What do you guys think about the train scene?
It's okay.
Liked it.
I thought
Going
it
out
was the
there.
most boring thing. Like, where would you rank that in terms of train heists all time, or even like movie heists all time?
Train
Like,
Heist
nothing
is
happened.
pretty overdone already.
Yeah, it was
Like
kind of slow.
every other action movie.
That was
has
their
some
first
sort of
mistake then.
train sequence.
But there's no tension. Like, for me, if you're gonna make a Star Wars movie that is on its own adventure, like it should. Like, one of the reasons why you want to have a solo adventure is because it's just like good on its own. You have good action scenes, and it doesn't need to connect to all that other Star Wars bullshit like the Jedi and the Sith and the Empire. But you have just good action scenes, and like I was falling asleep almost every action scene. Like, there was nothing. There was no tension.
Well,
The
what-
only thing that I was interested in during the train sequence was I thought that it was going to be Boba Fett who shot Jon Favreau's character.
John
but-
Favreau.
The Rio guy.
That was John
That was
Favreau?
Jon Favreau. And then I was like, oh, this is way too obvious. They're telegraphing this. And then it didn't end up being Boba Fett, so I was like, okay, whatever. But like, it was such a boring scene, and then there was just nothing interesting. And it was almost worse that the Kessel Run is such a thing that's been built up in Star Wars mythology that, like, if you're gonna take that on and do the Kessel Run, you
Yeah.
have to do it interesting. And it was, if that was not the Kessel Run, I would have already forgotten about that entire sequence. Like, there was nothing interesting about it. They did a more exciting version of it during the Star Trek movie 10 years ago, where they were trying to like escape the black hole.
I kind of liked that. Oh, well, yeah. considering that yeah, it makes sense. But I did kind of like the Kessel Run. I think it fell victim to the hype that you mentioned. Like, everyone blew up the Kessel Run. There's this great big thing, and then like, if that wasn't the case, if it wasn't such a big deal, that I would have found that a little more cool. Like, I still kind of liked it.
But like, you've taken that on. You've made a conscious choice to do the Kessel Run, and you all like. This is something where there's a pilot in a bar saying, "My ship did the Kessel Run," and then Ray, 30 years later, is saying, "Oh, you did the Kessel Run in 14 parsecs and not 12." But it's like, this seems like something that everyone should know. Like, the Kessel Run, quote unquote, is like a big thing. Like, what they did is like,
there's a giant space squid.
and
a black hole.
But like, when you're calling it the Kessel Run, it's like a big thing that everyone in the galaxy would know about, and it wasn't. It was just like, that's a path you take to a planet.
Yeah.
And then when he comes out after, and he's like, "Oh, I did the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs," and the guy beside him is be like, "I don't give a shit," and it's like, yeah, why would anyone care about how somebody got through that adventure? Like, they were stuck with it being parsecs instead of like a time unit, and you chose to do something that was not a good idea to do because you can't do that well, and then they didn't do it well.
I think it was kind of safe because, like, the whole fact about the Kessel Run mostly being the reason why it's not safe is because no one knows what's outside of the regular Kessel Run, right? Mm-hmm. Like, because if you go outside of this path, no one knows what's gonna happen. No one knows what's gonna happen to you, but you're not gonna come back.
But like, there's no one who's saying like, "Oh man, that guy did the Kessel Run in 20 parsecs instead of 22." Like, that's just a route.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, okay, I liked this movie, but I thought it would have been more interesting to explore parts of Han Solo's past that like we don't know about. Like, yeah, for example, like if we'd seen something that was not the Kessel Run, or not how Han and Chewie meet, or, you know, like, they could have gone so many directions with this film, and it felt like a little bit of a cop-out to me to just kind of like do the greatest hits.
They answered so many questions that we didn't need to know the answers to.
We did not need to know the answers.
It was great. They gave us all of the things they said they were going to do, and then they did them. That was it.
This movie has the potential, like, bounty hunters in space, like smugglers in space. It's pirates in space. You can have just wacky characters and fun adventures, but instead it's like, this is how he got his last name.
This is how he shot
Chewbacca.
first.
And so, okay, that's another issue. Is like, they needed to build a character where you could believe that he was the type of person to shoot first. Mm-mm. But they didn't do that. What they did instead is they just had him shoot first at the end. They made him into a hero who was not the type of person who would shoot first, and they said, "Oh, just make him shoot first." And
no, but
that's the character you need, right?
I think he still was. He wasn't a hero, but he was still the kind of person that would shoot first. I didn't have any problem with, like, even though I saw it coming. Well, I kind of saw it coming, but I didn't have a problem with him shooting first because I feel like that fit. Like, it was.
I don't think it fit at all.
They did a lot of like saying without showing. There was a lot of like, Han, you're a very good person and a righteous person. You never see him really be good and righteous. I mean, you see kind of at the end he's helping out the raiders that, you know.
But it's like, I don't want him to be good and righteous. He has that character arc in the Star Wars trilogy.
Right,
Make him to be like a scumbag like Peter Quill in the Marvel movies is just like kind of good, but like mostly a scumbag.
Mm-hmm. That's the trouble with conflicted characters. You can't just fall back on an archetype. You have to show both sides of them and play to both sides of them. They do an all right job of it. There are a lot stronger, like, conflicted characters out there in terms of movies.
But like, there's really good examples of movies that are based on anti-heroes. Look at the Man with No Name trilogy with Clint Eastwood. How it's like, this guy, he doesn't need to have the whole character arc of being maybe good or maybe helping the rebels. You can just have somebody who's an asshole, and you can build a character around that.
Yeah.
And
how do you get to that point, though? How do you get?
You don't need to get to that point. You just make that movie.
You're born with a stogie in your mouth.
Just give him a reason to be cynical about the world, and then have him do asshole stuff.
Yeah, or even like the character of DJ in The Last Jedi, right? Like, show him playing both sides. like, because he's not invested in this, like, I mean, conflict that hasn't started, but like he doesn't care about the Empire, right?
I'd rather him be worse of a person in these movies so that his character arc in the trilogy seems better.
Yeah, like having him start out as this kind of like wide-eyed, but like, you know, like tough on his luck, scrappy kid.
It's like a musical.
Yeah,
Sounds
I
like.
mean, I feel like it kind of undermines the development that happens in the original trilogy of his character.
I think they're banking on all the Star Wars fans nowadays not remembering the original trilogy.
They're
Yeah.
too young. They're,
Yeah.
they're all 10 years old.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a kids movie.
Yeah, going for what I was seeing in the theaters, you wouldn't be too far off.
Yeah.
Also, it falls into that trap of just way too many references. And I know they toned it down a little bit, but every time the movie got some momentum going, they threw in a reference where I'm like, and this is not going to translate onto a podcast, but I'm sitting there, I'm like enjoying the movie, and then they make a reference, and I'm like I groan. Like I'm sitting
For
there
the
groaning.
podcast audience, he was groaning.
Yeah.
It was the facial expression that you make when you groan.
But it's like they're talking about like he's meeting what's his name? Woody Harrelson. They're going on an adventure, and it's like,
Harry
oh, we could have just hired Bosk, and I was like, do you need to throw in Bosk there? That was actually one of the better references that I thought because it was just like a side mention. But then like they're in the middle of the heist on Kessel, and then Chewie rips somebody's arms off. And it's like, that doesn't make sense at all for what's happening right now with these characters, but it's like, oh, Wookiees rip your arms off. They mentioned that in episode 4.
That
so
didn't
you
even
gotta do that.
relate to like the context of the Wookiee ripping people's arms off in the original trilogy.
It's just like, there was so much stuff like that where it's like, and again, the dice. They never explain the dice, they just have them there. And it's
Sorry,
like,
on the note of the dice, I actually didn't even notice them through the original trilogy.
Me
And
neither.
it just became a big thing in...
okay,
No
I thought I
one
was the
did.
only one.
Yeah.
Because
That
they
was-
brought this up in episode 8, and I was like, wait, what dice?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
And then, like, I saw the other day, I was watching some random YouTube video, and then there was, like, a screenshot of A New Hope,
Yeah.
and then there's the cockpit of the Falcon, and then there's, like, the dice in the picture, but they circle it in red so you'll see it, because otherwise,
Yeah.
you won't see it.
No, I've
And-
seen that Snapchat. Like,
Yeah. And when did these dice become such a huge Star Wars phenomenon?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I guess the answer is during
During The Last Jedi.
or no, before the
Well, kind of during the Last Jedi.
Or the last-
is when it became popular, like
Yeah.
for everyone else.
I guess. But yeah, sorry, that was just one thing that.
I'm interested in, so this is one of those movies, and Star Wars has kind of had hiccups like this in the past with Rogue One.
The shittiest Star Wars movie.
Worse than the prequels.
Agreed.
It's not worse than the prequels.
It's not worse than the prequels.
Actually, it's not worse than the prequels.
We don't
but it's
talk
pretty,
about
it's,
the
it's
prequels.
not as good as a lot of people
I'm gonna
want to hype
say-
it up as.
The prequels had a vision to them of being an actual movie that these bullshit Disney corporate products are.
Yeah, the vision was
lower than.
making Star Wars a political drama.
I respect that. Like a political drama in space.
Yeah.
That's a movie.
It would be if
It wasn't
wasn't
executed
shit.
well. It wasn't executed well, but it was a vision of something.
It's very like follow the Roman Republic, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, history and shit. I
Like,
mean,
there's so many examples of like that story being told way better, but it's like they tried to do something. Whereas this, like, okay, how many people can we play to within a 2-hour span? Okay, we got the 5-year-olds, we got the 10-year-olds, we got the 40-year-old fans. Can we impress everyone in this 2-hour span?
Look,
It's
they
just
got me, okay? I mean, like, I'm not saying it was great. I just enjoyed Rogue One. I enjoyed watching Rogue One.
So one thing I'll say about Rogue One is the ending action scene of Rogue One. Like, it's regardless of what the movie is, like that's an enjoyable action scene.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's good action. There's no good action in Solo. Like, there's nothing that I would ever play where I was like, there's tension or anything. Especially because when you're doing a prequel, you know everyone survived. It
Yeah.
cuts away all tension.
it's also very different. Like when you have lightsabers, you can have choreographed fight scenes that are a little more chunky than what you can get with a gun. Like that's what a lot of people really enjoy
like
about
light
Rogue One
daggers.
is you
Yeah.
have like I don't know, you have vibro sticks and whatever their other crazy crap they have there.
I liked the idea of a crime syndicate in space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that whole idea of it's a heist movie, it's crime syndicates, it's smugglers in space. you should be able to do a really fun movie with that, but instead they have this theme of what Star Wars needs to be, which is like this inspirational people who are doing good for the world. And it's like, that should not be part of this movie.
Yeah, that I think like the fact that they had to keep falling back on that or like base the movie on that is like it kind of ruined it a little bit.
But they're doing a similar thing to so for the MCU, I don't know if you guys know this, but they actually shot every MC movie with the same camera. Not like the same physical camera, but the same brand of camera, same model of camera, because they want everyone to feel like it's in the same universe. And they're doing it with the Star Wars universe where I don't know if it's the same camera, but it's that same tone, so it feels like it's the same. But like, I don't think they need to do that, especially in a universe as vast as like the Star Wars universe.
True.
And it's like
because it's a real universe.
Yeah, like you can have different types of story all set in the same universe.
Yeah, I agree. I think like something that really undermines this film is kind of the need for people to like Han Solo. I think it would have been more interesting, yeah, for sure, if he was an anti-hero. And I mean, the thing again about doing the Kessel Run is like, you know the outcome. You know he does it. You know it's like his thing, right? So if he'd done something different, there was more opportunity for failure on his part, which would have added like more tension to the film.
Yeah. With all the choices that they made, they didn't take a lot of risks, and so that translated to the stakes being very low.
Yeah.
And one thing that I really, really wished is that they would take some opportunities to subvert what you're expecting.
Yeah.
Like there was this one setup where he walks up to the counter and, Han, what's your last name? Oh, you're traveling all alone, huh? I was just waiting for
that.
Okay, Zag at this moment.
Yeah.
Call him like Han Loner or something.
Yeah.
Even if he did say
Yeah,
Han
wouldn't
Loner,
that
that
be a-
still would have been bad.
Everyone, that would have hit. People would have laughed at that perhaps. But no, they're just like, your name is, turns to the camera, Han Solo.
Like 15 seconds for him to say that too.
Yeah. It's like the actor had to pull it out of him. It's like, no.
Yeah.
There was never any point where I was wondering what was going to happen next.
Exactly.
No,
Well, there was
and-
two things. Sorry, really quick. There's
Okay.
two things that surprised me in the movie, like throughout the whole movie. That Woody Harrelson's crew died so early, and two, Darth Maul. Those were the only two surprises I had.
Woo! We got there, folks.
Can we?
Wait, let me
Boo, boo, boo,
before
boo.
we
Confetti
jump
falls down
into
from the
Darth Maul
sky.
territory. You go first.
Yeah, okay. I just have like another sort of thing on the point that I was making before about even where Kira decides to like not go with him. Like that seems like something like, oh, like, you know, because they seem to have this connection and they have this history, right? And she doesn't go with him, and it sort of seems like it might be surprising, but you know they don't end up together, right? Like you know that like Han is hitting on Leia later, right? And so like even the stakes of that are low, even though in the film itself it is a little surprising, right? You're like, oh, you think that they're maybe gonna go together.
I like that they're trying to set up a longer term vision of how he becomes cynical of like, oh, he got betrayed, and then this eventually leads to him down the road becoming cynical.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that part I was okay with, but then as soon as she made the decision to like go that direction, I was like, all right, whatever. I don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah. I did like her character though. I thought she was a little more
I hate
interesting.
Emilia Clarke, so
Oh,
biased.
all right. I liked her. I kind of liked how her motivations seemed a little more complex.
I didn't
I
understand
liked
what
that
her
too.
motivations are, and I like it's these logic gaps in the movie where they're like, the only reason why they could steal stuff from Kessel is because they weren't associated with the Crimson whatever they are. But then you're gonna send your general with a tattooed icon of your organization with them if they get caught. That's very obvious.
That's fair.
Maybe that's why she stayed in the Falcon the whole time. No, she didn't.
No, she was
What do you guys
like,
think of the robot?
yes, L3. I loved her.
Oh no!
I loved her so much.
You watched the half in the bag on this,
Yeah.
right?
Well, no, I did, but I also have my own opinion about L3.
I did not mind L3. Like, L3 is getting some hate. I actually at one point thought that L3 was going to die a little bit and they were going to plug it into another human being that was going to end up being Lobot. And that never happened.
What?
Oh, that would have been cool.
That would have been interesting.
Oh shit! That dude
That's-
on Lando's.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Cloud City.
That's extremely
Lobot,
creative.
that
for...
That was too creative for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
cameo, but
It was very obvious, like, K2SO worked in Rogue One, so let's duplicate that. And then what people are complaining about online is this person being social justice droid, which is on one of our favorite YouTube channels. I didn't think it was that bad. Like, it was a semi-interesting character and added a little bit to the Lando character, but I didn't love or hate it. It was just kind of like, whatever.
Yeah, like, I liked the point of, like, the whole quote-unquote social justice droid. I liked that concept, like, what she was doing. The only problem I had with L3 is that it was kind of like Deadpool, where everything had to be a joke, whereas L3 everything had to be social justice droid.
But that's keeping in character with droids in the Star Wars universe. I mean, they're all very single-minded. Every droid that you see kind of has one like personality quirk or neuroses that they just will never overcome. It's part of their programming.
Exactly. Like C-3PO is 1,000% neurotic. R2-D2 is just kind of an asshole, right? Like all of these droids are very like full on with their personalities, and so it did work for me.
But I didn't like L3.
You are allowed to not like L3.
I feel like they gambled a lot on us all liking L3 because when you plug it into the Millennium Falcon, you're like, oh, this great droid.
L3 lives on forever.
But it's like I didn't really... And also, like, you died because of a rebellion that you started, so, I don't know.
Well,
good for
no,
you.
there's nothing wrong with that. Like, she gave herself for her rebellion. That's...
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really care that she was plugged into the Falcon. Like, it doesn't make me more invested in this ship or anything, but I liked her character. I thought she was funny. I thought it was, like, added some nice texture to the universe to have a droid with a female voice that, you know, was talking about droid rights. That was, like, something a little fresh. I know that she did it a lot, right? But, like...
Gwendolyn Christie's really good in this movie.
Was that
no?
Okay, I was just about to say I kept thinking that was her voice.
It totally sounded like Gwendolyn Christie, but it wasn't.
Who was it?
It's like a nobody.
I know.
Well, she's got a couple TV shows.
Like she's done stuff, but
she's not.
Okay.
Yeah, she's not on Game of Thrones.
Like, if I closed my eyes and she was talking, I would see Captain Phasma in my mind because you.
Which is a negative because that's such a terrible.
I know, she could have been so good.
Yeah.
Another episode.
Greatest anime betrayal. Top 10 anime betrayal.
Uh-oh.
Anyway.
Okay, how about Lando? Let's move on to Lando.
I really wanted to like Lando coming into this movie, and it's just like I don't know if it's they didn't have enough of him or like. There was no scene where there was like that great Lando moment that made me really like him. Like he was fine. It wasn't bad, but it was like it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be.
I mean, they could have done a lot more, but I feel like they just kept him more on the side and let it focus on Han, which I was okay with because the side parts, like it was like the subtle funny things that he was doing, which I really really liked. Like the whole she's putting out a fire with his cape.
Yeah.
That was really funny to me, and like the fact that he had a cape closet.
The closet was excellent.
Yeah, I've heard complaints about him doing an impression of Lando.
Yeah, I didn't get that at all.
I didn't get that either. Like I just 100% liked his character.
Yeah, he would have been like even if that wasn't Lando, I feel like that's still an interesting character.
Yeah.
So.
And that is part of the reason why like my whole thing is like the first half of the movie kind of sucked, but the second half like picked up and I actually did kind of liked it even without the meaningful action.
Mm-hmm.
So you told me that before I watched this movie, and you said that like first half was meh, second half was better. There was no point for me where it turned. Like, where's that point for you? Like, this is where the movie got better because I didn't get that.
It's not 100% because Lando appeared, but like around that time, that's when it started picking up. Because so the first half I include where they're on Corellia, and he is like part of the Empire, which I should have liked. Like I feel like they could have done a lot more with. When Han was an army stormtrooper, like not a full stormtrooper because he didn't have the helmet, whatever. Like it felt like so fragmented. It almost felt like the Fantastic Four movie, like the newest one. Have you guys seen the Fantastic Four movie?
I don't know if I've seen the newest one.
Basically the Fantastic Four movie, it feels like there's a huge chunk missing.
Okay.
It's just like it makes zero sense, and there's like parts of the first half of Solo that don't make any sense to me, and there's like it feels like there's pieces missing. Like it's just not. It doesn't flow.
Yeah.
And then also like the whole fact of Woody Harrelson taking him on.
Mm-hmm.
Like I there was no reason for him to do that. Like
They bet the whole first part of the movie around there's this girl and I need to get back to her.
yeah.
And then there's just a certain point where it's like, well, I met her again. Yeah, that's it. There's nothing more.
But yeah, but like on top of that, like when he's on that war planet and like he's trying to join Woody Harrelson's crew, what's his name? Beckett.
Yeah.
Beckett, yeah. And then like Beckett is doing everything in his power to like get him away, and then he eventually he's just like, okay, come with us.
Yeah. I mean, I liked the Beckett Solo dynamic. I thought that was kind of interesting. Something that I read online about it is that Beckett's character was based on Long John Silver from Treasure Island, which like really makes sense when you think about it, right? He's this like pirate that gets this sort of more innocent kid into a kind of a life of piracy. You know, at the end of Treasure Island, Jim doesn't kill Long John Silver, but I thought it was like an interesting thing, like an interesting dynamic anyway.
Yeah.
I don't understand this reference because I don't read books.
Have you seen Muppet Treasure Island?
No.
Or...
Have you seen Treasure Planet?
No.
All right, you need to watch Treasure Planet.
We'll just leave that one
What?
as audience. You should check that one out.
Yeah, it's good.
one maybe like reason that I'm hearing from a lot of critics about like trying to explain away like maybe where some of the problems arise from Solo is the director switch. So just like they had to go in for rewrites for Rogue One, they had to swap out directors, kind of change.
As
course
soon as
midstream.
Clint Howard showed up, I was like,
Who's
you
Clint
might
Howard?
Ron
Ron
Howard?
Howard's brother.
Oh.
You might as well just put text on the screen being like, hey guys, this is a Ron Howard movie, remember? This is Ron Howard. And I was like, it was so distracting.
Expecting his voiceover to just cut in.
I was so I had a bet with some people before this of like which scenes from the trailers were going to not be in the movie because they were picked from the Lord Miller movie, and there wasn't a ton of them. There was only one that I remember, and it's like Solo is saying to Chewbacca, he's like, "Oh, what do you think?" And then Chewbacca growls. And
That was in the movie.
when?
It was in the movie.
I don't remember this at all.
They were I think they were either in Paul Bettany's whatever it was,
Yeah, his office.
his office
Yacht.
party, his office party.
His party.
Yeah, is either that or when he was gonna meet Lando for the first time, I think. But they did say that.
Oh, I was watching for that and I didn't see it. But anyway, like, I wish I could have seen the Lord Miller movie. Like, I love those guys as directors. Like, I think they could have done so much good things with, like, they said that they made this movie too silly and that's why they fired them. And I was like,
I would have.
want
Oh,
a silly
I
Solo
wanted
Lando
that.
movie.
That's what I want.
Those were some of the parts that I like, the whole cape thing again.
Yeah.
And like I feel like the whole L3 would have been balanced more.
There was the pre-show for Cineplex, Canadian for our American viewers. Cineplex is the Canadian theater chain. There's like a pre-show kind of thing where Childish Gambino kind of does like a tour of the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
And it's like, for me, that was more entertaining than like anything that was actually in the movie. Because it was just like, oh, what would the Millennium Falcon be with Lando? Like, yeah, it would be kind of like a party bus. And I was like, that was interesting.
Be like an all leather interior,
Yeah.
and here's my cape closet.
Yeah.
Like,
One funny anecdote I heard about Donald Glover. His mom was upset when he took the role because she loved the original Lando so much.
oh, Billy D. Williams.
Yeah.
Honestly, I can't imagine anyone else doing justice to that role. Like, he's the perfect
Yeah.
actor to cast for that.
Yeah.
It's funny because I actually didn't like him being chosen as, because I like Donald Glover
Yeah.
as everything, but then seeing him as I couldn't buy into him as Lando, and then now seeing him as Lando, I think he did a great job.
What do you guys think of the poker scenes? Like space poker, whatever it's called.
Sabak, even though there was like no sense to what was happening, I still kind of liked it.
Yeah, I liked it.
They really like to push a lot of things on the table.
I think that's the universal sign for like, this is big.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Just the sound of many chips
Yeah.
rolling into
Because
the center.
that's where it became obvious to me that they were trying to make a space western. You got a train heist, you
Yeah.
got poker, you got betrayal. Like, they're trying to make a space western, but, like, there just wasn't any scene that was interesting to me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Overall view of the movie?
Oh, are we gonna talk about Maul?
Oh,
Hey, we
yes.
didn't even get to Maul.
We need to talk about Maul.
What do you guys think?
Okay, so I am very into Star Wars, but I haven't seen like the Clone Wars show or like the Rebels show or
I have
whatever.
watched all of Rebels.
Okay, so I haven't seen that, and so so as far as I knew, Darth Maul got cut in half and fell down that well in episode 1.
You're such a casual.
Oh, fuck yourself.
Shit, EU showdown going on.
You know what? All my books that I read are not canon anymore. What do you want from me? So I thought he was dead, and when he showed up, I was like really against it. I was like, what the fuck? I felt like it was just like I hated it so much. And then I went and read up on what he's been up to, and now I'm very into it.
So
I
am against it for very different reasons because I love the Maul character in Clone Wars and Rebels.
Okay.
Like, for those of you guys who don't know at our audience, like, he gets cut in half and his rage keeps him existing together long enough for him to get metal legs. And then he's basically on this revenge mission against the Emperor and Obi-Wan because that's who betrayed him. He's like, oh, the Emperor sent me on like a death mission and Obi-Wan's the one who killed me. So this rage fuel Sith person who's not really a Sith anymore because he doesn't like the Sith. He's just like, I'm just a person who's really mad. Like, I really like that character. I really like the arc that he had. And then, spoiler alert, it all wraps up in him going against Obi-Wan and then he gets killed in Star Wars Rebels.
Okay.
And it's like, it's a really great scene because it's building up to a season 3 of Rebels. They're all building up to this Maul versus Obi-Wan adventure or like a battle. Mm-hmm. And then he meets Obi-Wan and Obi-Wan just like cuts him in half and like right away.
Again.
And because he's like, because Obi-Wan's like a really great Jedi.
Yeah.
And it's like, but there's an emotion there about revenge that you really feel with. So they did that well.
Right.
And so when I saw the hologram with metal legs,
Yeah.
and like, I'll need like my girlfriend to correct me because she was there with me, but like, I'm pretty sure I probably said out loud in the silence of the theater, like, oh, fuck off. I was like, this is so bad. And then like, they made it worse because he looked like a cartoon. And I don't know whether that's because they added some visual effects to it or like maybe Ray Park got really bloated because it was Ray Park who was
Yeah.
playing him.
Because he hasn't
Yeah,
been
it
doing
was.
anything ever since.
But it looked cartoonish, and then it's like, oh, I'm having a business meeting with like my syndicate. I'm gonna pull out my lightsaber and just like.
That was my biggest
I was
problem.
like, what the fuck are you doing? Like,
Yeah,
why
that was
would
not
Darth
good.
Maul be running a syndicate? He's on a personal revenge mission for like 10 years. This makes no sense for the character. They did it well in Rebels. It was one of the few good things about Rebels that was good, and now they're just gonna fuck it up in the movies just so that they can bring in some fans.
No,
And so I was
just-
so annoyed.
Just specifically the lightsaber, I was like, why are you pulling out your lightsaber? Like, it's so clearly, this is a Star Wars movie. There has to be a lightsaber somewhere. So in a hologram, look, it's my lightsaber. And then,
Well, and especially because he's like not this Sith anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's more interesting for him to be this like
Yeah.
crime lord. So it's like,
Yeah.
why?
Exactly.
You
No,
have
exactly.
Your lightsaber.
I was
Put it
happy enough.
away.
I was happy enough to see him like, oh, surprise, he's there, because I didn't see that coming at all.
Yeah.
And then, oh, look, he has metal legs. I'm clever because I know that.
They definitely could have left a little bit. They could have teased a little bit for something upcoming, like, is he or isn't he gonna have a funky lightsaber of some sort? Like, what's going on with those metal legs? But they show a lot. They tell.
But they're
very
setting
little.
this up because they got to make a Kenobi movie, and there's nothing you can do with Kenobi. So why not just have Maul? And
Oh
it's like-
shit! Is he gonna be that thread that ties these packages together?
So are they going to undo the Rebels storyline, or are they going to retell it? Because the Rebel storyline is good enough. You don't need to retell it. It's fine.
Well, and because according to Disney, the TV show is canon.
Mhm.
Okay, so then why are they retelling a story that they've already told, right? Like
Exactly.
after going through the effort of scrapping so much of the like pre-existing canon, why are they fucking what they've decided is like part of it?
But like for me, tying in Rebels is interesting in concept because you can bring it like they ended off Rebels, it got canceled, but there's still this Jedi out there. There's these characters out there where I want to see what ends up happening to them, why they're not with the Rebels by episode 4. But now it's like, does any of that matter? Are you just gonna overwrite it? Like, I don't know. I want to see what happens, but it's like the only reason you put that in there is because you want to play to some of the Rebels and the Clone Wars fans, and also tie back to the older movies. But like, there's nothing you can do with it. And there was a little bit of me that was a little bit excited when I saw Maul, but then the more I thought about it, I was like, there's nothing good you can do with this. You're just gonna fuck this up.
I will hold out hope, I guess, as I usually do, because I like everything.
I'm in the holdout hope camp.
Yeah!
Like, for me, I was very surprised that I liked this. I was very surprised that I liked this movie and I didn't like Rogue One. Because it had very many things going against it. Rogue One was a solid story. I just didn't connect with any of the characters in the way that I did with
Rank
Solo for some reason.
before Disney Star Wars movies. Everybody.
Should I go from top to bottom or bottom to top?
Top to bottom.
Top to bottom. Top is going to be
The Force Awakens.
The Force Awakens. Thank you.
Does anyone disagree with that?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'd say The Last Jedi.
Whoa, you're flipping away on its
Okay,
head.
yeah. Finish up
All right.
yourself because we have another fight.
So The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, Solo, and Rogue One.
Yep.
You're the same?
My ranking is the same.
What are yours?
After you, Carson.
I was gonna say Force Awakens, and then like a mile later, there's The Last Jedi, Rogue One, and then Solo.
Okay, I'm gonna say The Last Jedi.
You just said that Rogue One was the worst Star Wars movie.
Yeah, whatever.
He's just trying really hard not to agree with me. I'm gonna say The Last Jedi. I'm gonna tie Force Awakens and Rogue One, and then Solo is last. But Solo is not like it's kind of not unfair, but it's unfortunate for Solo because actually, you know what? Yeah, it was kind of bad.
Okay, so where would you rank your number 2, whatever it was, in the context of the Marvel movies, the MCU?
Wait, what?
So what your number 2 was? So for you, you kind of put like Force Awakens
And Rogue One. Yeah.
Where would you rank that in the 19 Marvel movies? Because for me, there's a lot of the Marvel movies, and then there's Doctor Strange and Iron Man 2 and Thor 2 that are the worst. And I put every Star Wars movie that's not The Force Awakens in that same category as like the worst.
At like the 75%, like the 60% mark.
Yeah, about 60, 50%.
Yeah. No, not 50. Like solidly in the 60% mark for me.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like, I'm more invested in Star Wars movies. They were a bigger part of my childhood.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that probably Marvel resonates a lot more for them. It was a bigger part of, their growing up. So I would push...
Off the strength of that, that's where my
I would
ranking is
push
coming
them kind of in maybe bottom of the top third, if that makes sense. So a little bit higher than half.
from. Yes. 65%.
Yeah, 65, 70. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm at the point I have at my desk at work. I have a bunch of Star Wars toys, and I'm looking for other toys that I can replace them with because like I'm actively
I'll take
like
your
a
Star Wars
non-Star
toys
Wars
from
fan now. Like they're fucking this whole thing up. I
Disney.
don't like it.
Then just like take a stand against Disney and leave your Star Wars toys.
Yeah, I mean, similar to Tyler, I have a strong connection to Star Wars. Like, growing up with it, I don't think I can compare the two universes because like watching these movies are such a different experience for me. Like going into a Star Wars movie, I have a lot more context, a lot more, like I'm so much more invested in the characters and what's happening there. Whereas like I go into an Avengers or Marvel movie kind of the same way I go into like a Fast and Furious movie, where I'm just kind of honestly I'm along for the ride, and I'm there to have a good time, but like ultimately I'm not gonna get that like upset about it, or I'm not gonna really love it. I mean, I really like Thor Ragnarok, but that was more about what the director was doing. Like, I'm a big fan of that director. But yeah, like, I'm very invested in the Star Wars universe. I don't really give a shit about Marvel. So Star Wars is always gonna outrank pretty much everything for me.
Say comparing
in like Marvel universe.
Even Rogue One.
Yeah, even Rogue One. And like, the thing for me that worked for Solo that didn't work about Rogue One is I thought Rogue One just had like so many characters and they were all new, and I couldn't connect to any of them because I didn't remember who was who and what their story was and all this shit. Whereas when you're going into Solo, you automatically know, you know, Han and Chewie and Lando, and that gives you a base. And then anything you're learning about them is like a bonus on top of what you already knew. And then the new characters, like, they come in too, and it's just easier, I find, to like kind of have like an emotional anchor.
Oh, I disagree so much.
Okay.
I could see you cringing.
Yeah.
Carson's like turning all the way around.
I want that Star Wars movie that is just its own thing that is also good and happens to be a Star Wars movie.
Well, I mean, they're slowly making like it went like the Force Awakens, which was exactly A New Hope.
Give
and
us
then
20 years and they will eventually make the Logan of the Star Wars
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah.
So like just
R-rated.
hang in there.
Can we have an R-rated Star Wars movie?
I
Eventually,
could
if they're
see.
gonna make like every year.
I don't know. Could you see Disney making that move? Like, they had a lot of opportunities in the last 4 to kind of take things in a direction you didn't expect, and they didn't go with it.
Oh, I thought you meant like exactly R-rated. Like, there's no way they were gonna make any of these 4 R-rated.
Well, when they own Deadpool, will they make it R?
When?
Ooh, when they own.
I mean, they're trying to buy it right now.
Matter
If it's not an R-rated movie, like, what is it?
Honestly, they're not really using their R rating right now.
Which Deadpool?
Deadpool, yeah.
Yeah,
People
you.
are like in the first
It's
one.
just blood.
In the first one, he got fucked in the ass with like a strap-on.
Yeah.
bow. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
Use
In this
R-rating
one,
a
they
bit
just
more.
talked about the strap-on.
Yeah. All right, we'll end it there. We'll end off this episode as we usually do.
Wait, what were your ratings?
In a drunken bar fight.
What was the rating of Solo?
Like a 55, 5.5, whatever the scale is.
Okay.
All right, we'll end it. We're
What-
way over time. So as we usually do, what movies are you guys looking forward to coming out in the next month?
All right, I'm guessing they're giving me the nod, so I'm turning this in a bit different direction. So I've got my summer blockbuster fill. I mean, these 3 will keep my monkey mind busy for a good long time, and I love them for it. So I'm going a little bit for the indie emotional hit. Coming out later in June, we've got one called Leave No Trace. So by the writer and director of Winter's Bone. It's about a father and daughter who have been kind of doing this transient lifestyle, living out in the woods. Finally get caught, and they're brought into kind of like a domestic suburban life, and it's kind of how they both cope with that. But it seems geared to make you cry. This movie will make you cry.
Cool.
The other one, I saw a trailer for, and I was very, very intrigued. It looks kind of like Boyhood and Florida Project, two movies that I really enjoyed watching. It's called 8th Grade. It's by YouTube celebrity turned director and writer Bo Burnham.
Oh.
So this could implode in my face. This could be not the movie I really want it to be, but from all of the trailer and the talk around it, it looks like what I want it to be. A coming-of-age movie about a girl in the 8th grade finding herself. So
I was on board with that until you said YouTube celebrity.
you don't want to hit that YouTube. You don't want to get that nice little golden check mark next to...
I'm bitter because we don't get any YouTube visitors.
Shout out to SoundCloud.
Yeah. When do you get these?
Me? Wait, me? You're
Somebody.
ladies first.
Okay, so I'm looking forward to seeing the Ocean's 8 movie. Yep, I really liked Ocean's 11, 12 and 13 or whatever, but Ocean's 11 is one of those movies where back when I still had, cable TV, if it was on, I would watch it every time. And like,
Shout out to TBS.
yeah, and that movie was on TV a lot. So yeah, Ocean's 8 seems awesome. I'm really excited about the cast. Yeah, especially Mindy Kaling. I think that's going to be fun. The other movie that I'm looking forward to is actually already out, but I haven't seen it yet. It's called On Chesil Beach. And it's based on a book by the author that also wrote Atonement, and also stars.
Stores.
Beers are good. It stars Saoirse Ronan.
So
She's
I
great.
rated, that was the worst movie I saw at TIFF last year.
Oh,
Really? On Chesil Beach?
I can see people liking
Fight.
it, but for me, it was just like, it wasn't for me.
Yeah, that's fair. And like, I read the book, so I mean, I know what it's about. But I think it's kind of like an interesting, like basically the premise of the movie is like this couple gets married in the early 60s, and it's about like sort of their wedding night and what happens when you're waspy virgins, and there's a lot of baggage around it. And
I feel like it's an interesting premise, and I'm a big fan of Saoirse Ronan. Like, I was
Yeah.
expecting decent things, which is why I went and saw it. But like, I was just like, oh, there's like nothing. But like, honestly, like, if somebody went into that movie and said I really liked it, I would be like, that's fair.
yeah,
Like, some people will like it, some people won't.
yeah, that is fair.
You guys can fight next episode about it.
Whoa.
It'd be 2
Fight
hours
about
about
On Chesil
Chesil
Beach.
Beach. No guests,
Yeah.
just Carson and Rebecca. My movie, I only have one. I pick, in keeping with our theme of selling out to big name movies, I say Ant-Man and the Wasp. Because I love Paul Rudd. Because he's hilarious, I think, in pretty much, not everything, most things. And even though a lot of people don't like Ant-Man, I like him.
I think he's a good character. I think the first movie was just kind of a mess because the whole like Edgar Wright dropping out halfway through it thing. So I'm interested to see what they do with like the one director doing the whole thing start to finish. So
Hopefully it's like, wait, who's the director?
I don't know, probably the same as the first one.
That's the one Marvel movie where I would want Phil Lord and Christopher Miller to do.
That'd be good. The one that I'm looking forward to is Hotel Artemis, mainly because it's Dave Bautista and Jeff Goldblum.
Yes.
There's a bunch of other like semi-interesting side characters, but like I don't know, like you have this many good characters, and I'm only hearing about it in a trailer. Is like I feel like the director's really bad. And it's gonna be disappointing, but I'm gonna set myself up for disappointment anyway, just like every Star Wars.
I'm excited for that one because of not aside from Jeff Goldblum and Bautista, the black dude I think he's one of the mains. He's in
it's
also
a TV show.
He's in an episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
What's that really sappy TV show that he's in?
I don't know.
This Is Life or something like that.
This Is Us.
This Is Us. Yes.
Oh, okay. It's
Anyways,
like the
that's all I know
brother
him
from
from.
that one?
It's what?
He's the brother. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I
Don't
like
know that
him.
one. I was thinking of Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh. Also, Jodie Foster?
Yes.
I want to like her, but I'm like, she hasn't done anything exciting in a while.
That's fair.
But could be good.
Cool.
Anyway, thank you for listening for way too long. If you've made it, all
We
the way
made it.
here.
Are we at 2 hours?
We might be.
Dang.
Thank you, and see you again